Want to know why? Ask how. Howard, the humongous. Welcome to a time of turmoil. It's the last week of the presidential campaign, and we are being assailed by a battle of scandals. It's Hillary's emails versus Donald's grabbing women by the pussy. And all of this is revealing something very strange about the workings of your brain and mine. If you are a Republican rooting for Donald Trump, you see Trump's sexual scandal as what Trump says it is, a big lie. The biggest press pile-on in history. A phony issue concocted to make Trump look bad. But if you are a Democrat rooting for Hillary Clinton, you see the furor over Hillary's emails as a press pile-on that makes the Trump scandal look microscopic. And you see Trump's joy in sexual assault as a signal to his character, a sign that he should never be allowed near the Oval Office. Which leads to a question. Why do we humans gather in either-or groups? Trump or Clinton groups, for example. Then why do we apply very different perceptual frames to the very same facts? And why do we hang on to these frames like hell, refusing to let new facts get in the way? Why do Trump fans insist on seeing Hillary's deeds as criminal? And why do Hillary's fans look at the very same facts and conclude that Trump is an egotistical moron and worse, the man whose university defrauded elderly people out of their savings and convinced them to sign up for 6 credit cards, to max those cards out and to put themselves in a debt whose stress could kill them? In other words, if you are a Hillary fan, why do you see Trump as the real criminal? And worse, if you are a Trump fan, why are you convinced that if Hillary wins the White House, it's the end of American civilization? And if you are a Hillary fan, why are you dead certain that a Trump presidency would mean the end of the world? One answer comes from British neuroscientist Daniel Bohr in his book, The Ravenous Brain, How the New Science of Consciousness Explains Our Insatiable Search for Meaning. Let's see if I'm capable of turning a page. Daniel Bohr's thesis is simple. It hinges on working memory. Working memory is like the desktop of your mind, says Bohr. It's where you handle conscious processes like thinking, imagining, and reliving old grudges or exploring new romantic possibilities. And says Bohr, that desktop of consciousness, your working memory, is limited. Working memory, says Bohr, can handle only 4 items at a time. Yes, only 4. A very small number in a brain that contains tens of thousands of memories, 20,000 words, and a kit bag of concepts. So how, asks Bohr, does the brain manage to handle complex things like politics, sports scores, stock market dips, and relationships? We overcome the tininess of working memory by what Bohr calls chunking. Chunking means putting things together in categories, in big bags. For example, walk outdoors at midnight. You can see anything from 12 to 1,000 stars. How do you handle this in a brain that can only deal with 4 items at a time? You have the concept of a star, and every one of the dots of light above your head fits into that category. So instead of 1,000 items, you can put all the stars in the heavens together under a simple label. Yes, stars. And that one lump, stars, that one chunk, can fit as a single item on the desktop of your working memory. Then there's another chunking tool for handling stars, constellations. You can lump 7 stars together as the Big Dipper, another 7 stars together as Orion, and so on. Orion counts as just one item on your limited desktop of working memory. So does the Big Dipper. That is chunking. But the biggest chunking devices we have are stories. Stories are those things we fashionably call narratives today. And stories are built on something simple: identifying a hero and a villain. If Donald Trump is a hero, you can see his claim that Hillary Clinton's email scandal is the biggest example of criminal corruption in the history of the presidency as urgent, important, and as truth-telling. In fact, you can see Trump's criminal Hillary line as the telling of a truth that could be vital to the survival of the republic. After all, in a Trump narrative, Hillary is a villain. What's more, in a pro-Trump narrative, you can see Trump's sexual scandal as a pile-on of a deeply prejudiced press, a press working on behalf of a globalist conspiracy, a conspiracy of international bankers, newspaper owners, and the cosmopolitan intellectual elite. The Trump narrative has lots of villains. But if you believe that Hillary Clinton is the best prepared person ever to run for the president, Trump's scandals, with everything from sex to Trump University, prove to you that the Donald is the real criminal. And the email scandal appears to you as part of a crucify the Clintons agenda that multi-million-dollar right-wingers, the folks that Hillary calls a vast right-wing conspiracy, have pursued for 24 years. You see Hillary's use of a private server as an attempt to be efficient and to respond quickly to shifts in world affairs, an effort to be able to communicate with your advisors, your staff, and your people in the field, no matter where you are, an effort to communicate with a highly efficient networking tool, your BlackBerry, a tool that bureaucrats frown on, an attempt to run you see what Hillary is doing as an attempt to run a 21st century State Department in the face of a government internet server system that works more like a straitjacket than a tool of communication. If you are pro-Hillary, you may see Hillary's private server not as criminal, but as smart. After all, in the pro-Clinton narrative, Hillary is the hero, and Trump and the right-wing billionaires are the villains. What's the result? When new facts emerge, you pick and choose those that fit your point of view. In other words, a Trump supporter and a Clinton supporter can look at the very same facts and arrive at precisely opposite conclusions. Why? Because of chunking. The Clinton and Trump narratives are tools. Tools that allow us to take vast masses of facts and turn them into a single item. An item that fits neatly on a narrow desktop that only holds 4 things at a time. An item that fits on the inner desktop of working memory. What would happen if you and I were forced to change our minds? We would be forced to toss away the very tools that allow us to make sense of what we call reality. We would be forced to flush a narrative that explains oodles of facts. We would be forced to do without our device for chunking. Paper. And something more. We would be forced to separate from the support group, the subculture, the team, the family, the group of friends that coheres around our chunking tool of choice. You and I would become enemies in the eyes of the group that measures your right to belong and mine by the narrative we mouth. They allow us into groups that give us warmth and support. Why? Because humans chunk more than just facts. We chunk ourselves into teams, networks, into social webs. And without those social webs, those social nests, we cannot survive. This is Howard the Humongous, speaking to you from the future. It's your job and my job to make, or, want to know why? Ask how. And now for that insidious little, I think I've got it, off button.